Hello, and welcome to my first ever YouTube video for my blog Living the Lovely. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make some classic chocolate chip cookies. Okay, so you're going to need 2 eggs, 1 cup of butter, 3/4 cups of brown sugar, we've packed it up, 2 cups of chocolate chips. I actually used 1.5 cups because we wanted less, but you can do what you like. 2¼ cups of flour, 3/4 cup of granulated sugar, so normal table sugar, and 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Okay, so we're going to begin by taking a bowl of flour and adding our baking soda and salt in with it. Make sure you get everything out and grab a whisk and just whisk the flour and the baking soda and salt together until they're nicely blended and incorporated. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our butter, add it to the bowl, make sure it's a room temperature butter. And then you're going to add your granulated sugar. Now before you add it, I would suggest straining it through one of these strainers just to make sure you get rid of any clumps that might be in the sugar. And I feel like this is pretty important because the sugar might look like it's fine to the naked eye, but when you start incorporating, you notice that there's a few small and hard chunks. So this just helps to avoid that and get rid of it. Now, as you can see, I have a bit of chunks of sugar left, so I'm just going to toss those out. You might like to add some more sugar depending on how much you threw out, but I'm good for now. So we're going to go ahead and add our brown sugar. Now, the thing with brown sugar is you want to make sure you pack it when you measure it. So this is 3/4 cup, but you want to crumble it with your fingers into your bowl before mixing. Because if you just throw it in like that, it'll be too stiff and it won't incorporate well into your cookie mix. So make sure you crumble it up with your fingers. And you'll also want to make sure you add your vanilla at this stage too. Ta-da! So you're going to have your butter and your sugars together. Now we're going to mix. So here I'm just blending my butter and my 2 sugars together to get them nice and well incorporated. You want to mix that up nicely, and I would say you would know that it's ready as it starts to crumble into little tiny balls, and then eventually it becomes pretty smooth. So just keep mixing, mixing, mixing. So after a bit of mixing, you want to make sure you take your spatula and run it down around the bowl, clean things up, and make sure you get everything in there while you're mixing. Now we're good and done mixing. So as you can see, the batter isn't bumpy anymore, but it's nice and smooth. So I'm just taking my spatula and rubbing it down and giving it a good little mix, and you can see that the batter is really nice and smooth and velvety, and that's exactly how you want it. Okay, now we're going to add our eggs. So I'm going to just add the eggs in separately, one at a time. And you want to beat and mix well in between each. So we've got our first egg, and now I'm going to give it a quick little mix until it's fully incorporated. Now we're going to add in our second egg. And again, just mix and get it until it's nice and well incorporated. Now that the egg has been fully incorporated, we're going to go ahead and add our dry ingredients, so the flour and the other sodas and stuff mixed in. And the reason we do a little bit at a time is that if we do a lot, it would all get all over the place when you blend it. So as you can see, I'm just taking my time adding the dry ingredients to the wet ingredients a little bit at a time. There's no exact science of how much you should add in, just a little bit. Mix it in and then add some more, then keep mixing it with your spatula and your mixer until it's all nice and well incorporated into a nice usable dough. And you'll know when you get there. And now for the best part, the chocolate chips. So you're going to add your chocolate chips to your mix, and the recipe calls for 2 cups. I used 1.5, but feel free to use as much or as little as you want. and just mix it in and incorporate it with your spatula. You just want to fold it in just like that, just to get it nice and incorporated. Make sure you pull from the bottom as well, so you don't have the top dough be covered in chocolate chips and the bottom dough have no chocolate chips. That would suck. So we're going to keep mixing and mixing, and you can also add in a half cup to a cup of nuts if you like. I chose to forgo the nuts because who wants to eat healthy cookies? But okay, so now that you have your dough, what we're going to do is use a 1 tablespoon measuring spoon to scoop out some cookie dough. So I just use the spoon. Take some dough. It doesn't have to be an exact science, but this just helps to make sure your cookies are all roughly the same size. So once you scoop it out, just give it a quick little pat and make them into nice little round balls. They of course don't have to be perfectly smooth or perfectly round balls, but it's just a good little way to measure each of them so you don't have some that are huge and some that are really tiny. You also don't need to grease your pan or line it with parchment paper because the butter in the cookies allows you to get away with that. And there we go. Now that we have our cookie dough nice and beautifully laid out on our beautiful pan, we're going to pop it into the oven. So your oven should have been preheated at 350 degrees. We're going to pop it into the oven for about 10 minutes. It can vary depending on the heat settings on your oven, so be careful with that. Now we're going to check on our cookies to see if they're baked. So pop them out, and I think they look perfect, and they do. So the cookies should be nice and golden, and you'll put them down to cool on a cooling rack before you pick them up and put them on your cooling tray. So I've now left these cookies to cool a little bit to room temperature for about 10 minutes. So we're going to carefully lift them off the pan and put them on our cooling rack until they're fully cool. And that's it. You've made yourself some delicious, soft, chewy chocolate chip cookies. Enjoy! Please subscribe for some more videos and be sure to check out my blog, livingthelovely.com.